Greetings to a very relevant topic today. So, why IGA, specifically identity governance, has been such a failure to enterprises. And of course, how can we improve this? So, to shine light on this topic, we have renowned identity and cyber expert, Mr. Tech, Mel Reyes, and compliance and federal expert, Stacy Cameron, as well as Tom Sabbe, cyber and GRC expert. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Ashley.
Hi, Ashley.
So, first, Mel, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Having had the earlier conversation just before getting on this call, I need to calm myself down. But I've worked in the industry for 30 years in pretty much every role from IT through cybersecurity. I've seen a lot of the uh, industry's best and worst practices. Honored to be here.
Perfect. And Stacy, can you tell the audience about yourself?
Sure. I often like to say I am a computer scientist who does not program, but I've been loving IT probably since I was about 12 years old, going to the office with my dad, just learning, loving all the gadgets that were present. And my sister always complained that all he did was talk all day and sit in meetings. And now I understand what that's about. But so I would say I've been doing IT cybersecurity for about 20 or so years. And I've done it as a federal contractor, a federal employee again, private sector. I've worked with, I do consulting. So I enjoy the aspect of consulting because I'm able to work with a lot of different organizations. So I've been able to work in different industry, supporting Department of Defense, the federal government, local and state governments, healthcare industry, tech companies, educational institutions, financial institutions, gaming and entertainment industries. So it's just been able to give me a lot of experience and understanding how organizations tackle their overall security programs, including IGA. So there's been successes and there's been, as we like to say, areas of opportunity. So.
Wow, you are federal. That was good.
And Tom, what about yourself? Can you tell the audience about yourself?
Sure. I've been in IT and cybersecurity, mostly and more IT, for about 25 years. I started off on the customer side and then moved into the carrier side and went back to the customer side. And it's been a great career. Really enjoyed it. I've had roles in operations and in sales. So it's an excellent environment. More recently, I've been associated in the last 5 years on cybersecurity and GRC. So this is looking like a great topic today and love the audience. Back to you, Ashley.
Love it. So first, Tom, let's define IGA.
Sure. Identity Governance and Administration, IGA. So it enables cybersecurity administrators to efficiently manage user identities and access rights across an organization. Easy enough. When implemented well and reviewed frequently, IGA improves IT and cybersecurity. Good idea. It's also important to cybersecurity teams because it helps them reduce risk by implementing necessary controls which align to the principle of least privilege. Good example of this is the case of Microsoft, which recently fell victim to a nation-state attack after it left a legacy non-production test tenant account open, since it was not used anywhere anymore. Oops.
Yeah, well, someone started using it, right, Tom? Yeah, that's what happens with accounts. I'm sure Mel has stories, but yes.
Yeah, let's go to Mel. So
Yeah.
who in the organization runs IGA?
No one. No one runs it. It runs itself. It runs amok. It's a pain in the ass. I tell you. So depending on the size of the company, I've been at Fortune 10. I've been at startups with like 6 people, right? But at the end of the day, I don't really think it's about who's running it. I think about the culture, right? And this is where every cybersecurity baseline, basic control or theory comes into play. With IGA,
there's a high level of importance. The bigger you are, the more systems you have, and the deeper the layers, especially roles and responsibilities, the more you should be paying attention to this stuff, right? The more you should have somebody designated, right? So whether it's InfoSec, a governance, an audit, it's cybersecurity, it's an analyst, whatever the hell it is. But the most important thing is kind of like the first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem and you need to address it, right? And I don't mean that in a sarcastic way. I mean that like you really have to look at the importance of IGA. I mean, we talk about IAM, we talk about all these other wonderful things and policies and MFA. I'm like, holy crap, you really, really need to focus on that. So if you were to say I've got a standard group or department, I would say, yeah, it would be cybersecurity, but it goes much deeper than that.
No, and thanks for jumping in with it early on the difference of IAM and IGA. You want to give a few words on that?
Yeah, so you've got the individual components around who can log in, what their role is, where they're at, what access to the systems, et cetera, et cetera. But then you have the actual true governance, right? You've got a lot of really important things that you need to determine from a real-time sensibility, especially if you've got high production systems or high volume systems. So when you're looking at the administrative component of like who's watching who, what's actually going on, where do the attestments and the actual roles management happen, right? So that you can have separation of duties and all these things. There's got to be a level where it's separated from the XYZ just logged in and they're in China, whatever, right? But at the end of the day, the maintenance of that versus the governance of that is really two separate roles. Undoubtedly, it's going to be handed over and encapsulated in somebody else's role. They're going to wait every other month to actually look at reports or look at alerts. I was in an organization where there was a security related piece with access, and 6 months later, a security analyst reached out to us to ask us and I was like, 6 months? I'm like, what if this real scenario where it was data exfiltration or otherwise? I'm like, so that's what I mean by that kind of governance. It has to be real time. You have to have the rules. You've got to have the controls, and it has to be escalated based on if it's accessing the crown jewels or et cetera. I'm just going to stop now because yeah.
It's all good. Keep going.
Yeah.
And
no,
Stacey,
it's frustrating. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Stacey, why does the IGA exist?
I mean, Mel kind of started, right? So when you're looking at governance, I'm just going to take it to just a simplistic form of when you're looking at identity governance. So governance, you want to apply control, you want to direct these programs and everything that's going on. So when you're adding this element of governance to your identity administration, then you're allowed to take a strategic approach, right? So you have these huge digital identity challenges that you need to tackle. You need to have a method set forward. You need to have, and I know we're going to get into this a little later, you need to have some type of automation, but why does it exist? And yes, there's security and risk management. That's obvious. There's other things. And of course, me being the compliance person, I am going to mention the compliance reasons and laws and regulatory requirements. Not everybody does IGA because they want to, right? They don't wake up in the morning and say, this is what I'm going to do today. They want to say, I want to continue business. I want new lines of business. In order to do these and be successful, then I have to have some type of IGA program in place. So those are a lot of reasons why you may see that it's in existence. And even Tom touched on this a little earlier. When you start looking into different breaches and examining some of those threat vectors that are associated with the breaches, a lot of times you're dealing with some type of identity issue, right? Some access control issue, something that could have been possibly mitigated with better identity governance. So those types of reasons are why I would say it exists.
Okay, Stacey, in your experience, does IGA usually get second fiddle in some enterprises you see?
Oh, loaded question. So second fiddle, third fiddle. So it all.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's got a line. And Mel seems to agree too.
If it's second fiddle, honestly, I think it's pretty high up there from a lot of places that I've seen. But a lot of times with it, you're dealing with different organizations with different priorities, right? So you're dealing with someone that's maybe a highly regulated industry. So that's going to be like your healthcare, financial, government, those types of things. They're going to have a bigger focus, not just because they're trying to, but they have to by law, right? So these things have been put in place. There are certain laws that are attached to these follow-on security controls that go into identity. So those things are in place. Then you have larger organizations, and I know some, like Tom and Mel were talking about this earlier, that have more complex IT systems. So you have cloud systems, you've got all these SaaS environments, you have all these different elements, and you have all these different IAM solutions, right? You may not be doing it centralized. So a lot of those things, you need to have some type of governance over that just to make life simpler in what you're doing. So, and then I know I was reading the other day, Gartner is talking about within by 2025, about 40% of companies are going to have some type of analytics based on IGA, which means they're going to be using a lot of these IGA automation. So second fiddle, I know we kind of deviated from that a little bit. But a lot of times it's based on business prioritizations, right? So a lot of times whatever the business, the order of businesses, that's where the focus is. Identity governance may be coming second fiddle or third fiddle, or just depending on what your prioritizations are. But yes, so I've seen it in many levels, but it's definitely needed, and most organizations are starting to see, only because it's being plastered across the news of those that are failing to do so. Mel, you're over there. Got your hand going.
I gotta jump in. I can't just sit back. And that's exactly what that was perfect. Just cut that section and just promote the rest of the shows with that little segment. So thank you, Stacey. And you're absolutely right. We're coming to an apex, and Tom, you brought it up, Microsoft, right? Legacy systems. You don't have visibility and control because you've never put it as part of your culture, right? You've never ingrained it. You've never escalated it. You've never pushed it to management or the board to say, we need to do more, right? And that's what I meant earlier. Thank you for the sandwich that we just created with what Tom said, with what you said, and my craziness.
Okay, Mel. So in your real world experience, why is governance often at the kiddie table when it comes to tools, trained personnel, and funding?
No one wants to sit through hundreds of questions, screenshots, policies, audits, unless you are an aspiring lawyer or otherwise, right? Because it's the legacy IT security drudgery, right? Oh, great. Everything has to stop because we've got to go look and take snaps of the logs, or, and yes, there's plenty of automated systems and vendors that are doing better at that, but the overall burden is still felt, right? Oh my God, fine, you answered 200 out of the 203 audit-related questions. The 3 or the 30 that are left, you would think you were asking someone to sacrifice a sibling or a kid. It was like, just give me the information, right? It's not a lot. I could have had another 200 questions I could have asked you, but we did our best to pull it together. So when it comes to IGA, there's so many different aspects, right? There's, especially like Stacey said, are you ISO 27000? Are you, or 27001? Are you HIPAA? Are you, FedRAMP? Oh, forget about Fed. It takes you 2 to 3 years to even get to the door with FedRAMP. Right? Yes. Are there policies and other pieces that are trying to improve that? Sure. Is it going to get down to a 2-month, 3-month review and assess whether or not you're FedRAMP ready? Yeah, I'll see you in 2030 or 2035 before we might come to something like that. Right? But the importance of putting these things together is what I just have to say. It's the culture piece. Everybody says it, but you've got to break away from it's too much work. It's too detailed. It's too many screenshots. It's too many this. It's too many experts. And just get it done, right? Bringing in the right partners across every layer. I will tell you right now, Stacey, there was one thing that you missed when you were talking about technologies, and I had to deal with it. I swear I went into this job, and when they said, hey, Mel, make sure to put in a request to get Attachmate Extra. I don't know if y'all know what Attachmate Extra is, but the last time I had used it was in like 90 something. That is a mainframe simulator. I was like, wait, what? I've got to work with a mainframe in this job, and it may or may not have been a recent role, right? So it's all over the place, right? And Tom, you talked about legacy systems, right? Yeah, like, but that's deep legacy, right? We may not be able to control that, but at least we can trade the entry points and some of the other tools and avenues. So yes, and I'm sure the government is all kinds of legacy systems.
Yeah. Yeah, there's still there's still some mainframe systems straight out of Fed.
So I sense a potential opportunity there, but I wouldn't want to tackle that one because that's right up there with the legacy mindset and the culture of, oh my God, we've got so much that we'd have to do to get to that. But that's where I'm at, and really it comes down to you have the tools, you know what the basic protocols are. Every framework is calling out for it. Just do it. I'm sorry.
No, that is great.
No, we love it. And Garret, as a product expert, aren't the current IGA solutions themselves part of the problem?
And thanks for the compliment. But yes. Now let's like sum up where we're at. So Tom did a great job. He got us going. Said straight out, guys, this is a real problem. If the largest software company in the world is having a problem, it's a problem. Okay. And then Stacy goes, well, it's not just second fiddle, Garret. Sometimes it's third and fourth. It's way down in the orchestra, the guy behind the curtain. Okay. And then Mel gave his great rants, but there was something he said early on in it. He said drudgery. And guys, that's the tools problem. It's 2024. And I'm even saying it's 2024 now, so that's pretty good for me. But it shouldn't be drudgery. It shouldn't. There's no effing reason that it should be drudgery. We fixed IAM. IAM's good. I mean, you're no one. I built an IAM product with Ashley. She knows that. We built one back in the early 2000s. Okay, and but I look at what is out by Ping, Jump Cloud, Okta, Zero D. Those are damn good products, people. Okay, why is IGA still so bad? Why is it that, when you ask people, I need an attestation, I'm in the DOD, I need a cyber tasking order, knowing what all these are. Why do we still use 1986 spreadsheets? Because the tools that we have are so behind. I'm a Midwesterner from birth. So what I always say is the analogy of US cars in the 50s and 60s, because I grew up in the 70s. My brothers were all, machine heads, that kind of stuff. And so they all had the 50s cars, and they redo the engines. Guys, everyone was killing herself then because the engines were fantastic. They were modeled off the engines that came out of the, World War II planes. We were really good at engines. We built a lot of horsepower on those things. And gas is 9 cents, so just what the hell, right? What were the brakes? The brakes were those drum brakes. And they can stop a car if you had all of Delaware to stop. If there was a turn or anything like that, then you had a problem, And that's really true. Look it up, y'all. And to me, I think that's the state of the union in 2024 with IAM, which is damn good. And we're really good at provisioning counts. We're really good at getting people online. We're really good with SSO. All that stuff's worked out, but we're still using legacy XLS and legacy tools for identity governance, and it's drudgery. And especially us in the West, because I work in a lot of cultures, people don't do drudgery. They avoid drudgery. They literally put it off. They'll do whatever. Real good companies avoid drudgery. Anyways, that's my rant. Keep going, Ashley.
And Tom, what are the consequences of subpar identity governance?
I think we've seen it, starting with Stacy, then Mel and Garret. And I'll just bring it up. I'll try and recap what I'm seeing here. And that is adding unnecessary business risk. Just goes back to Stacy and the GRC comment where she started. Then let's go on to Mel talking about spreadsheets. Well, the next time you walk into an organization, walk over to a security team and ask them, hey, let's do a user access review and look at their faces. They're going to go crazy on you. What are you talking about? That's 6 months worth of work. to Garrett's point, why? And Mel's, why? It's been out there. We've been doing this for so long. Why does it still take so long to get such a necessary process completed? I mean, we all know the compliance frameworks are telling you have to do it quarterly or annually. Why does it have to be so difficult? So let's try and figure this out. And if you think about it from an attack standpoint, the first thing an attacker does is look for an overprivileged account, because the overprivileged account is the one that has access to the data that is stored in an encrypted manner, but that overprivileged account has access to it. They can see it. They can export it. These are the consequences. And that's what we've been talking about. Back to you, Ashley.
Thank you. And Mel, have you seen how the lack of identity controls or improperly utilized identity controls have negatively impacted the enterprise?
So speed to governance and access, right? When you combine the two, IAM and IGA, I'm going to say this probably for the first time in a live session. Usually I say this privately. I was that developer or that engineer or that architect that needed to get things done quickly, right? There was an emergency, the ticket was approved, and we need to get go. We need to revamp something. And then the drudgery, right? A process and everything else, because somebody had to be contacted here, and then somebody had to be contacted there, and then they had to, the universes had to align, and the moon had to align. I was that developer who was a diva, right? I was that architect who was a diva. I was, right, so now I know when an organization needs to make a shift because they have a code freeze at the end of October for the rest of the year, that everything needs to pivot there. Guess what? That's when everything starts to happen. So the speed of which these controls can be executed is important. Stacy, you brought it up. You're building out, global partnerships or federal partnerships. Guess what? You need to attest. Well, it's not time if if you're 5 months into the year and you're scheduled your attestment evidence gathering for August. Guess what? You've now got to ramp it up. So guess what? You need to pull the teams together, context switch, and refocus. So the speed at what you get to of why you need IGA, all of those reasons is really important. And that's where I've fallen into a lot of traps, where they're like, we need to get this, XYZ assessment, from a global partner done in the next month. I'm like, really? We're not done with putting in some of the controls and, risk registry pieces. And now I need to attest to some of these things while I'm doing that, right? So being able to get to almost real time or as close to shortest possible path to be able to do that, where you can do the work that'll get you to a tighter set of controls and prove that you're really, doing that for the organization, but also for that business growth and partnerships. That's really what it comes down to.
And Stacy, in the federal space, these same lack of controls bite these agencies as well, don't they?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. So we'll say yes, but I'll give you a longer explanation. So within the federal space, the federal government, they have requirements for all of the systems. And it's usually based on the information system risk tolerance, right? So it's not just an agency requirement, it's a system requirement. And the requirements will have more restrictive controls or control enhancements, the higher level risk involved within that system. I mean, similarly, even in non-federal side, you'll see a lot of people taking a risk-based decision to apply security controls. Main difference within the federal government is it's being enforced by law on all systems, not just, and it's following the data, right? So any type of system, information systems that's going to store, process, or transmit federal government data, they have to have these same restrictions in place. And as you go into different branches of the government, even when you go to DoD, then you have different or more enhanced, I would say, requirements, depending, again, all based on the type of data and the risk involved within the information system. So yes, are they following to some of these lack of security controls. Some of them, yes, different. I mean, if you think about it, agencies are different size. Agencies have different maturity levels. Yes, things can be pushed out government-wide, but they're still responsible to implement at the agency level. So depending on some of the maturity level of those internal processes, you're going to struggle in certain areas. Not everyone has the expertise to even know what they're looking at, right? So you have those that are responsible for assessing whole departments, responsible for assessing systems that they have no idea what these systems do or how they do. And if you don't have the right people involved, then, I mean, you essentially could get blindsided, unfortunately. So you really have to have ways of understanding that, yes, I can have all these controls, I can put them all in place, but if I only have it on one part and not another part, or don't understand that there's all these other aspects to this system, then my documentation looks good, but then you end up with checkbox compliance, and you're not really adding that security piece that's really needed, which is what we're trying to do here. So yes, I definitely agree there is some lack of controls, but I mean, it can vary from agency to agency, system to system. I've worked with a lot of different systems, a lot of different agencies as a federal employee and on the outside. So yes, everyone has this struggle, and yes, there are tools that can help with this. So I see, Mel, I see you going.
No, I was just agreeing. No, I agree. Just keep going. Yep.
See, Mel's in the top of my screen right here.
There you go.
I know Tom's wheels are moving too.
Okay,
so
Garret.
yeah, definitely.
Go ahead.
100% with you.
Yeah, the federal government has their share of challenges. So yeah.
All right, Garret, let's switch over to you. So now the industry and even groups like CISA, the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency are touting concepts like zero trust. So doesn't that require IGA components?
Yeah, and I like where you took this, because basically there's a whole hammer and a candy on the one side. The hammer is coming down. I mean, the U.S. and everyone at higher levels seems to be understanding that these hacks are going beyond just annoying. They're dangerous, right? I mean, turning off our oil supply, turning off our natural gas facilities, right? Attacking our water supplies, all that. Hacking our supply chain to our F-35s, okay? And that's big air in LA and all that. This is a real problem. So the US government and the other agencies have said, okay, there's a hammer approach. We can sue people to have them start taking identity governance seriously. And actually, we've done on some Audit Tuesdays where we talked about SolarWinds and, basically, the fraudulent reports in 10Ks and the 8Ks where, enterprises say, yeah, we're handling this governance, we're handling principle of least privilege, and the due diligence shows it's not. Okay? On the candy side, let's, encourage people to do better. There is a CISA. And we had that gentleman on the other week from CISA, and he went through the zero trust maturity model V2 document from CISA, and he said straight out that this is what enterprises should be doing. And zero trust came from the industry, but it was good that the CISA had people like that gentleman Donald Hester come on our show and say straight out, team, we get it. You're doing things a certain way. Okay? Okay, let's give you a migration path to better practices. As Mel said many times, practices and procedures, culture, right? But to be blunt, we're in the West. We don't do anything just to change our culture, right? We just basically say, okay, can you make it easier for me? Can it make it logical for me? Can it make it executable and repeatable for me? Then people are doing it. And that's what they're laying out. The CISA is laying out. It says, listen, we got you a traditional level for governance is what? It's literally spreadsheets and ignoring it. That's traditional. We can say it's other, but it's really just ignoring it. And they say, let's get to your initial where you automate this. And then when they say, let's get you to advance, let's start putting some triggers on these things. Okay? If something changes, like Tom let off, and I'm not going to let up on that one. That was a good one. Tom let off. with the changing of permissions on the OAuth accounts that hacked on Microsoft. Where the hell is the trigger on that? Why didn't someone know and say, hold it, that's an important thing. Where's the change? And then we get to optimal. And optimal is where we take the AI scores and start feeding them back in. And I do like what Donald Hester said on our show, and what the CISA is saying is that the world, it doesn't work, especially in the West, when someone says, you got to be here. Everyone's like, well, that's not doable. I got these other things that are doable, right? But I do like the CISA zero trust model because it basically says, we can do this in increments. We can do this in increments. And as we used to say, that company that the board of, that's what we've done at UATest. Do it in increments. Let's get you to the first, to the initial state, automate. Then let's get you triggers. Then let's throw some AI. Okay, there you go, Ashley.
Crawl, walk, run.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Well said.
And Tom, the pieces that Garret are talking about in zero trust, that means that manual processes need to be automated, right?
Oh, 100%. If you automate them, you actually make them scalable and increased use of frequency. Right now, we have no frequency use. Again, as Garret alluded to, you got the carrot and the stick. Well, the carrot, I'm not sure what the carrot is, but the stick, the SEC added, so that's expensive. And there's more and more things that keep coming out here as more sticks are out there. But let's talk about the idea of, let's make this easier. Let's add in that sense of automation, eliminate those twisted faces when somebody says user access reviews, and start getting to the point where we actually can sit down and say that engineering sees engineering documents, finance sees finance documents, and marketing can't see either. And oh, by the way, we look at and we know who has access to what throughout an entire organization, and we have a policy and a framework that we're following. Nice. It's one thing to have it in theory. It's another thing to actually implement it in practice. And today that's very difficult to do. It needs to be easier. So back to you, Ashley.
No, I really like you took that, because it's, and I've been doing a lot of readings and writings in the SOC and the ISO and et cetera. It's all in the frameworks, guys. But, you know, it does it have to be, and I almost give this a question to Mel and Stacy. Does it have to be like what PCI DSS had to do, which was spell it out as if, you know, everyone's a fourth grader and we had to understand what a two-factor was, as opposed to the vague wording, you know, of SOC saying, hey, you should have practice and procedures around governance and review accounts. I can't just throw a question out there for you guys.
I will tell you, spelling it out helps, right? It helps your auditors. It helps your implementers, right? Because you sometimes, and depending on where you go, I've gone to a lot of different companies. You have the guy that was your help desk guy that's promoted to IT director because he's been there the longest and he needs help. Having this documentation and, you know, I mean, you can probably read in this documentation for the rest of your life. But there's a lot of prescriptive methods of help, right, that they try to give you, and they work with academia and government and public and private sector, and they try to get a lot of input from a lot of different areas to help you. But yes, some people do need the help. Some people already know what they want to do. But yes, spelling it out, it helps. It helps from an audit perspective. It helps your auditors. Even in PCI, there's some level of subjectivity. That with 4.0 coming out this year, it added some areas that were a little bit more prescriptive, right? Because there are questions that were still coming up. I remember there was a question I had a client ask several years ago for PCI. They weren't able to store the secure authentication data, so they weren't able to store like your CVV codes and stuff like that. But they put in the standard in the requirement post transaction, and I had to advise and work with a client who was like, well, we got this information, but we don't need to make the transaction until a month or so later. So they were stuck in a place where we just haven't done the authorization yet. And if it takes me 30 days is this a loophole? Like, what do we do here? And I'm like, that wasn't the intent of the requirement. Let's find a better way. But sometimes, yes, you need to be a little bit more prescriptive. It's helpful.
Yeah.
And Mel,
Yeah. And
go ahead. Sorry.
well, let me just add something. I love it when I'm looking at a contract or a policy or otherwise, or a user acceptance piece. They have a little blurb on the top where it's like human readable speak, right? So they summarize it for you, right? Or guess what? Guess what I'm doing? I literally did this last week. I had to do a policy piece on the administration's AI announcement a couple of weeks ago. I had to find one relatable piece in there to write about. I took the whole thing. I went into ChatGPT. I said, too long, didn't read. Can you summarize in English for me of what the key categories are that I should focus on? Right. And yes, that's the kind of stuff that we need to do, because the interpretation, the legalese, well, it's just a lot. So being able to, one, have a subject matter expert like Stacy and and is important. But really, yeah, it might take that. But at the end of the day, we know what the baseline things we need to do, right? It's not about getting to the actual pinpoint of what it actually meant. Take the concept, take the theory, get into practice and do it.
And Mel, that would mean that the enterprises that you usually work with should be looking at and exploring new tools for identity controls that can make them more secure and efficient, right? Did I get it?
Every day, literally every day, right? You should have labs. You should have, 20% of your team switching every quarter to be able to take subject matter expert. You should be running these things all the time, right? What works better? Guess what? It might save you money too. Crazy talk, right? Because you find a better tool that has more features. This is how I actually, and Garret, you mentioned it earlier. I think Tom, you did too. Tomorrow, by the way, I have an article scheduled on the very topic of Kaizen, right? The scaled agile for the last 20 plus years, right? Agile, right? Minimum viable product. That's cute. That's great. Guess what I say? I said minimum viable effort, low hanging fruit. What can you chip away at? You can have a risk registry that has 1,000 things in it. Start chipping away at what the priority is, right? Start chipping away at the policy. Start chipping away at the culture, right? One little bite at a time, right? And that's what this whole process should be is, Stacy, I may not understand what the 4.0 implications are, but guess what? I noticed one new thing. Let me focus on that. What's the difference between what I had versus what's new? Let me start implementing and asking questions. I don't have to boil the ocean. All I need to do is take one spoon.
Well said.
And Stacy, wouldn't you agree that IGA needs automation to complete this stage of continuous compliance?
Yeah. So short answer, yes. So for all the reasons that have been described throughout this entire call. But one of the things I've always been a proponent of automation, right? Whenever it's available, as a consultant, I always recommend, hey, let's look in here. How can we automate this? What do you already have, right? A lot of folks have limited budgets. Well, let's work with what you have. Oh, maybe for this extra amount, you could turn this feature on if you're using Azure or what have you. Add this service into what you already have, because you can do it at a cost-efficient method. Why do you have 3 tools doing the same thing? Let's see if we can consolidate here and take these funds and move it over here, right? So automation is here to make our jobs a little easier, right? That's everywhere we go. And Mel, Tom, Garret, Ashley, you guys all know this. Everywhere you go somewhere, and what do they tell you? The problem is resource constraints, right? So don't have enough people to do this, or I don't have the tools that I need. All of those a lot of those can be addressed using automation. So yes, just like within IGA, automation, yes, use it. There's a lot of things to look into. Don't expect some individual to go back to, as Garret said, the 1986 spreadsheets and everything, to go back to that, or sitting down at your mainframe and everything that you got to do there. But yes. Yes. So yes, with the automation. But one of the things that I like to point out that is key with automation, you can't just go to the I guess we'll go online, right? So you go online, pick a tool, buy it, let's go, let's take it. Yes, use these proof of concepts. They exist for a reason. Not every tool is made for everyone's environment. Also, you have to understand the developers. There are a lot of software companies that are building these tools because they know that they're needed, but they have no idea on what they should do. And it's built in the program. Like I'll go in, I sit with clients, I sit on vendor calls. I sat on the vendor call with somebody that wasn't even a client of mine, right? So they were maybe a prospect, but he was just saying, I got this vendor call, I need some help. I'm like, yes, I will sit on the vendor call. And I gave him a short email afterwards with about 6 bullet points on why this would work and why it wouldn't. So those types of things that you really need to understand, because I've looked at certain tools and there's some basics that you do for you. We didn't even get into this. I was probably gonna throw this back to Tom, but talked about user access reviews. What does that mean, right? What is a user access review? What are you doing when you're doing your user access? Did somebody sit down, look at a list and say, those are users and I've reviewed them? So those types of things. And when you're looking at these tools and I'm looking at the logic behind the tools and I'm just like, okay, where's the date for last login? Oh, we don't track that. Well, then you can't even sell this as a user access review. So let's not even do that. You need to call it something else. So those types of things, really understanding what you need these tools to do, making sure that your environment is set up so you can configure them within it. You can't just throw a tool in your environment. Otherwise, you're going to have more of a headache instead of easing your burdens. So yes.
Perfect. So, Tom, what is a user access review?
Well, it depends. I mean, literally, you could say, if I think of it, let me think of it from a UATest perspective, where you're literally going out and you take all of the capabilities. Actually, let me throw it over to Garret. He'll explain it better than I will.
Sure. Yeah. And let me take this. Okay. So, and I liked your questions, Ashley's about automation. Okay. And I like history and all that, so I'll give you a history of UATest and explain user access reviews. So basically, UATest automates your user access reviews with something different, with an immediate deployment. So someone told me I built a product called SecureAuth from scratch, and it was the first 2-factor IDP, and Ashley was part of that. So thank you, Ashley, for that part of your life. And after I got out of that, I went over to Silence to build AI models. And then people came back to me that went over to other competitive IAMs and said, hey, Garret, no one's built an IGA product. I'm like, first question was what we asked you, Tom, what's IGA? And that was a 2-factor SSO guy. And I was like, wow, that sounds like a process, which Stacy knows and Mel knows. It's a process. It's not a product. They go, no, you can productize this. And so what I did is I took my favorite auditor, who I still talk daily all the time. His name's Raj Sawani, and he was the auditor at BlackBerry when I got bought by Silence. And I was like, Raj, what is this governance stuff? And he's amazingly informative. Why he's a UCI professor now. He said, Garret, this is the process. And then I took the IT guy. His name was Kelly Gilmore, which is my CTO of SecureAuth. And I go, so Rod, what do you ask Kelly? And Kelly, what do you respond? Basically, the SOC table, the ISO table. What does the auditor want? What does the IT guy respond? And we built that process. Now, thousands of lines code later, 3.5 million attestations later, we have quantified the user access review process. There aren't spreadsheets, or it's just the tools that are in front of people. Right? You know, people are looking at their emails, they're looking at their Slack, and it gives you SSO into the actual information that only you should see. So there was a great word by Mel on this one, drudgery. I am going to literally go to the SEO table and say SEO, and I want to get the SEO for IGA and drudgery, because that's what Ashley and I exist for. We exist to get rid of that drudgery, to automate this process the way it could be done if someone spent 4.5 years of their life and just took requests on how to automate the identity governance, basically the user access review process. That's what UATest does. It says, whatever you have, let's use what you have to automate it. And I'll give you a little hint to the magic of the product. I believe the best products in the world in identity right now are the IAM products. So what I did is I integrated this product directly into the IAM, so you can use what's working. You can use your Okta, use your Azure AD, use your Ping, use your Jump Cloud to automate and to execute on your user access reviews for all your resources in a way that is done in an afternoon, not a lifetime. Okay, that's my soapbox.
Perfect. So we have a couple of questions. So are there not enough trained people or siloed responsibilities?
Mel or Stacy take that about the enough people.
Are there not enough trained people? Training's always a fun thing. I would say it's more of a responsibility at this point. Training people sort of just comes with the job. I think you would focus on making sure, I guess, where you're hitting that responsibilities aspect of the question is making sure that you have those that is their responsibility. Because once you assign a process of responsibility to someone, then the training, ideally, if you're doing it right, the training will follow along. So really making that, going back to, as we discussed, prioritizations and preferences and business functions and criticality, where do we see IGA within the organization? They need to make sure that this is someone's responsibility, right? So from a government standpoint, it's in the controls to make it somebody's responsibility, but are you doing it?
Yeah, and I'd say if especially for things like user access, if it takes too long to train your people, you probably got the wrong tool. I mean, look at the wonderful council at Taco Bell, and nobody eats more fast food than me. I mean, you can do anything with their council because they spent time and worried about the GUI, So if it takes too long to train, yes, Stacey, that was literally a Taco Bell alliteration. I do. I look at it.
How much time you spent at the Taco Bell?
I look at processes and I go, well, that's really good. They can give the most bizarre order, and the person's like, dup, 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 dup. There you go, next one. There you go. Yes, and that's I look at training for tools. I mean, if it takes months to train someone on a tool, yeah, it's probably not the human's fault. I think that's the tool's fault. Anyways.
So Stacey, you threw out a loaded word, which I think if we go back to the replay, you saw me overreact on. And the loaded word that I loved was resources, right? Because that word means something different to someone else, right? If you go to HR, that means people. If you go to IT, that means money. If you go to cybersecurity, that means money, right? Could be the people, but you need the tools, you need the training, and you need the people, right? So where does all of that come from? Well, guess what? You've got to go up to ask for it. You've got to make sure that everybody up and even over the board or otherwise have set a priority. Now we go back, flashback 40-something minutes. First few words that I said, culture. If your board doesn't prioritize it, if your leadership doesn't prioritize it, you're not going to get the resources. No people, no tools, no training. Ta-da.
That's so true. I've seen so many organizations who the implementers wanted to prioritize it, but it wasn't coming from the top. So they kind of just dropped it. They knew it should be prioritized. Literally had documents, designs, diagrams, everything to the side. And they were just like, it's just not a priority here. So I'm like, okay, well, let me help you in this report and we'll bubble it up to the top. Maybe we can push that priority. So, well said. Absolutely.
So we know that UATest is the best for user access reviews. So what tools do you like for provisioning and lifecycle management?
Oh, wow. That's another loaded question.
Who wants to take it?
Give it to Mel. That's the hardest question.
So oddly enough, I practice what I preach when I talk about talking to startups and practicing a lot of different pieces. So I've worked with quite a few tools. I try not to be a salesperson or lead in with somebody I have a relationship with, but there are a lot out there, right? There's a lot of different ways to look at some of the best practices. And it's not VLOOKUP and it's not color, it's not condition, color coded conditioning in a freaking spreadsheet, right? It's making sure that, in every organization is different, right? And that's I've walked into startups that had pretty much every cloud provider on the planet, right? And every back end system. And I think, Garret, you talked about it earlier, or Stacy or someone, about the supply chain, right? And we haven't even talked about vendor risk management, right? You could be doing everything great. The next layer could be doing everything great, but guess what? Deep down, they're not, right? So all of these things are the kind of things that you need to pull in the right tools for, and the automations. Every startup that I advise, literally for the last 5 to 10 years, first question from their val prop standpoint or anything else, who do you integrate with? Right. And then in the last 4 to 5 years is, how are you attesting that you're doing this security thing? How can you push that report? How can somebody query you to validate that you're actually doing these things? Integrations, integrations, integrations. So easiest way for me to exclude a vendor is say, who do you integrate with? Because if you can't integrate with most of the tools that I currently have and build out the rest, I don't have time, because I need to automate it, right? And my team does not have time to learn your APIs, right? So it's gold when people hear that. They're like, oh yeah, and guess what? They add the features, they promote their integrations more. And to me, that makes it easier for you to say, now you can come into my house, now we can run some tests. But to call out specific vendors and tools, that the world is filled with all kinds of ideas.
Yeah, and let me just jump on the IGA question. I mean, this is one thing's a world, and I'm not too much of a conspiracy theorist, but I do play bad golf, par 3 golf with Bitcoin people. So I hear enough conspiracy theories to save the world. I swear, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun, guys. Anyways, but the myth out there is that we can't do a decent job of IGA unless we have a fully robust 7-figure IGA system of provisioning and lifecycle management. That's what I've built. That's what we did. We said, I talked to my friends Raj, I talked to the auditors, I talked to these guys and said, what do you want? Do you need everything consolidated? They go, no. What I need, though, is for that team to attest to those roles. I don't care how you do it, right? So I said, okay, let's attack this problem. That's how we built this solution. So I believe provisioning is important. I believe lifecycle management is obviously important. The answer is, what are you doing today? What if you get, if you're in a DOD and you get your cyber tasking order, if you have your SOC audit, what are you doing today? How are you attesting to all your roles and rules? And that's why I think a better tool like UAttest is the answer. All good.
Perfect. Okay, I think we can wrap up now. So, Mel, can you tell the audience how to get a hold of you?
I am available on LinkedIn most of the time, and then the other 64 communication vehicles that are out there. But for the most part, I can be reached at ETC.
TikToks are amazing. That's it. You go. Yes.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't have TikTok. I don't have it installed. I protest for a while. My family keeps sending me damn links, and I was like, "Stop! I'm not opening it." So you can visit my website, etc.limited, and quite a few other pieces. Looking forward to a future conversation with this crew. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom. How about you? How can we get a hold of you?
I have just changed my name to reflect my LinkedIn profile, Thomas V. Sabbe. Probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. I can give you email addresses, but they're not the easiest to spell out. So Thomas V. Sabbe is the easiest way to get a hold of me on LinkedIn. I'll connect with anybody in that regard, especially if you're GRC cybersecurity. That's what I focus on. That's what I'm looking for.
Perfect. And then Stace, how about you? How can we get a hold of you?
You can find me on LinkedIn as well, Stacey Cameron. You can also find me at www.cycam.io. So www.cycam.io.
Awesome. And then us at UAtest, we can be reached at uatest.com, or of course, just write us at info@uatest.com. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Garret.
Thanks
Thanks,
a lot,
Ashley.
y'all.
Thanks,
That was
guys.
great.
Of course.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.